Welcome to the Geek101 podcast, episode 245, Geek101 Bunker Survival Guide. I'm Ariel Rada.
And I'm Andy Bowman.
And today is a strange day in the lives of the Geek101 hosts and the rest of the world out there, because due to a certain medical malady out there, both Andy and I and most of the world should be hunker down, bunker down in their rooms, not going out, not seeing people, and the current recommendation is to not be in groups of 10 or more people. Andy, of course, you teach at a college.
Yes, I am a PhD student and I teach.
And I teach at a public school, elementary school. Both are places where traditionally there are more than 10 people. So we are currently working from home through online learning and whatnot. So today we are going to give our listeners basically an extensive homework list, online instruction from the Geek101 teachers, if you will. We are going to give you a bunch of recommendations for things to catch up on. As of this recording, it is March 16th. I am not scheduled to go back into physical work until March 30th. And Andy, I think you would agree with me that due to COVID-19 and other issues of it spreading and flattening the curve, I would wager that I probably don't go back till somewhere closer to April 15, 16.
Yeah, it's probably going to be the same for me. My college we just started spring break, and we have determined to have online classes for 2 weeks after spring break, with, the question mark there being implied.
Yeah, so Andy and I are basically just going to give a bunch of stuff that we would catch up on or other people have recommended you watch or read during this time in which you should be not physically seeing anyone but your family and significant others that live in your house.
And you know what? You don't even have to see them. Just lock yourself in the bathroom.
Lock yourself in a room. Before that, we do have news, and we only have one piece of news, and it is a news that has been affected by the virus and the social distancing, and for some people, for the quarantine. Andy, why don't you tell us what that news is?
We've got delays everywhere, Ariel. Everything that we were looking forward to the rest of this month and next month are being delayed in some way or another. Some more definitively than others.
Yeah, so let's, there are a ton of delays. You'll see a bunch of them. Mulan, A Quiet Place 2, but there are two particular delays I think it's important to talk about, and then one or two that are not yet delayed that are interesting to talk about. The first one, Andy, of course, is the I forget what the thing is. What can go wrong will go wrong with New Mutants. Murphy's Law, New Mutants. It was finally going to come out, and it of course has been delayed by Disney. And it was delayed, of course, by Disney in a move that delayed two other films, Mulan and something else that escapes me at this moment. But it is unfortunate that we probably won't be getting this movie in theaters.
I just don't know. I mean, I really want this movie to come out in theaters because I'm rooting for this movie now. Like, everything just happens. But it's been like 2 years since it was originally supposed to come out.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. I have long been a champion for this movie. I've been interested in it for a long, long time. It's unfortunate that it's not coming out. But another movie, Andy, a movie that is near and dear to our hearts, near and dear to the hearts of many fans, including those from Mad About Movies, our brother podcast over there.
Nemesis podcast.
What'd you say?
Nemesis podcast.
Oh, no, yes, our rivals. Fast and the Furious 9, whatever that movie is actually going to be called, has been delayed for a year. It seems that they wanted that prime time spot and did not want to compromise, right, or risk not maximizing its box office potential.
Right. Also, I mean, like, it just makes sense this way. They can just say, okay, it's next year, we'll have a little bit more time to do some more stunts. We can probably do something weird, maybe work in the Hobbs and Shaw cinematic universe into it a little bit better. Whatever. It's only a year. It's only a year. A full year.
Yeah, we've seen some of the Asian countries in a few months have managed to come back to normalcy, and the for example, in China, the reported positive tests are kind of as low as 5 a day, as opposed to the hundreds a day it was getting at one point. But yeah, we will see. I am probably going to enjoy Fast and Furious 9. I'm probably not going to think it's a particularly great movie because there have been diminishing returns since probably since Fast 5, right?
Yeah. Fast 5 was just a masterpiece.
Yeah. Sure. The Sistine Chapel of car heist movies. But yeah, there are going to be plenty of delays. This isn't particularly for this audience, but the NBA is suspended indefinitely and is looking to playing games deep into August when their season traditionally ends in June.
NHL.
Yeah, NHL is suspended. MLB is suspended. Football, the football news cycle is running strong, but of course their games are not played and their practices do not happen until August. Which many people predict we will be, over the worst of what is happening right now. So the world is kind of on pause, and for many many people working, they are on pause. Or around my town there are curfews. 8:00, no one should be out. So there is that. But we're going to get into our main topic today. This won't be a particularly long episode, because Andy and I both have things to do, and by things to do, I mean things to watch or video games to play. We are going to talk about all the things that you can be checking out on streaming services or video games or books to read. But Andy, why don't you tell us something that the audience can do to help our show?
All right. So, due to our episode last week being lost, we didn't really talk about the review we got that said that we're good, but it's very weird that we're not reviewing the Joker. I have decided to come up with an offer that might cost me my sanity. If you leave a 5-star review on iTunes, or have left a 5-star review and tweet at me, I will review a reasonable piece of culture, either with you through Skype, upload it to the main podcast feed. We can do that. I can even respond to a written review from you if that's what you want, if you don't want to do any talking on the podcast. But this is open to all of our patrons and the first 5 people who are not. So write an iTunes review, give us 5 stars, and I will review whatever piece of culture with you. I know we do have lots of time, but I don't want to burn through 15 seasons of Supernatural. But if you've got an opinion or something and you want to share something that you really love, this is a great way to get the word out, and I will review it with you. So tweet at me at Hebrews Pale Ale or something. Get in contact with me. Show me that you've left a 5-star review, and we will review, at least I alone will review a piece of culture either with you or with, text that you've written.
Yeah, either something that you truly love or something that I think you comically hate. I don't, if you're just like, man, I really hate that and I just want to go on and bash it. No, something that you dislike so much that you think it's actually like funny to talk about. I think that'd be some pretty fun thing, But yeah, 5-star review is the easiest way to help our show, and of course telling a friend who you think would enjoy the show. That's an easy thing to do. So let's get into our topic today. Andy, we've broken this up, right? Our bunker survival guide into 3 categories: streaming, things to watch through streaming, things to read, or things to play. Okay, so Andy, why don't you go first? Why don't you give us something to watch that the audience can maintain captivated with through this crazy time?
Okay, so there's this great show called The Last Man on Earth, starring Will Forte, and it is on Hulu. The premise of the show is that everyone else on Earth died in a mysterious virus, and Will Forte is simply the last man alive. It's an incredibly funny show. It was created by Lord and Miller of the Lego Movie and the first go round of Star Wars: A Solo Story. It's very funny. It's kind of poignant and almost prophetic now. But I'd recommend giving it a shot. It's 4 seasons long. It has some great running gags. Of course, Will Forte ends up not being the only person to have survived, but as a show, it does handle and tackle issues of, okay, he's the last man alive. That's great. Or everything about this world is only focused on this group of survivors. What would happen to people when their mental health medications ran out? When, certain things that we come to rely on run out afterwards. It handles it really seriously, but also with a lot of humor. And it's a little hopeful. That's kind of what we need right now. Hope. So, Last Man on Earth.
Yeah, I started watching it. If you are not a fan of Kristen Schaal, she is the voice of Louise in Bob's Burgers, and I do enjoy her in other things, but in that particular show, she was so gratingly annoying. I actually couldn't keep up. I couldn't watch it because I was too annoyed by her.
Also, Will Forte's character is the worst human being ever.
Oh, he's awful.
But that does change, and he has genuine, real organic growth after season 1, which is the shortest of all the seasons. So, if you're turned off by him, that's fine. Everyone I know who's made it to season 2 has really fallen in love with all these characters and the way that they are.
Yeah, so I just want to issue a warning in regards to Kristen Schaal. If you like Will Forte, there's a lot of very subtle humor in Last Man on Earth, at least from the couple of episodes I watched. So that's a good recommend. My first recommend here for streaming media is, video games are fun and they're great, and I very often do not have time to play all the video games I want to play. So in the past and right now, what I have done is you can either go on Twitch and watch people play video games live. I tend to watch people who are so good at video games that I'll never be that good. Someone like this guy, Real Crafty, plays Destiny. Or I've done this in the past. You find a video game you're interested in and just watch a playthrough on YouTube. Just search up, I don't know, Death Stranding playthrough, Breath of the Wild playthrough, and there'll be someone or some channel somewhere who plays through it, explains things, and basically gets you all that info of the game without having to take the time and learn the controls and play the game and get the story and blah, blah, blah. So that's my first recommend. If there's a game that you would have loved to play, but you can't devote 100% of your time because you're working from home, why don't you throw it on YouTube while you're working or something?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I do have a few YouTubers who do a great job with that kind of thing. If you look up YouTuber Chris Davis, that's his channel name, or White Light, those are both really detailed critiques of the entire plots of games.
What else you got, Andy?
All right, so a show that I hope we will eventually review when it finally ends is Devs, which is also on Hulu. Devs, who is a miniseries created by Alex Garland of Ex Machina and Annihilation fame, also the writer for the Dread film. It is basically a story about a computer engineer who is investigating a quantum computing company run by Nick Offerman. It is weird. It is tense. If you liked Ex Machina and you liked Annihilation, please give it a shot. It is really cool, and it's so fun to see Nick Offerman as a villainous character. It's great.
All right. I haven't checked that out yet, but I'm sure that I'll consider it, considering how much time I have here. My last streaming media recommend is for you, dear listener, to finally take on the long, intimidating series that you have been meaning to watch, but maybe just haven't had the time yet. This can apply to many things, right? I haven't caught up on the Americans. I'll probably try to do that. Supernatural is going in its 15th season. And if you have been interested in that, I would at least go to season 5 at the end of season 5. But in particular, I want to recommend a show that I just finished binge watching in preparation for a book coming out, and that is Scrubs. It is a medical comedy. It is my favorite of those Michael Schur-esque shows, because it's not a Michael Schur show. And they're, despite at times flip phones and old cars, there's a timeless quality to that show, which I just realized happens because everyone's in Scrubs almost, the majority of the time. The actors age pretty well. Most of them are in Scrubs, so that anytime you go in, you don't feel like the characters are ever really aging out or moving past, or stuck in their time. And there's a lot of medical jargon. It has long been lauded as the most accurate portrayal of medical life in terms of stresses and pros and cons and benefits and troubles that many of the characters have. So, when we get to reading media, I'll explain to you why, and particularly, why I binged Scrubs recently. But basically any show that you felt too intimidated to because you won't have, quote unquote, the time to finish it, the time to watch it, do that now.
Right. Now, Ariel, one thing I want to comment about the Scrubs thing is I think Scrubs is one of the first sitcoms that consistently made me cry. Where there's just a few episodes that are really genuinely touching and tragic. So
yeah, it is unafraid and it's very good at playing with your emotions.
Right. So I think it kind of started a trend that I really love is when shows are hilarious and funny, but then they do get real and emotional.
Yeah. What else you got, Andy, for any streaming media or things to watch?
All right, so just two really quick. Community hits Netflix on April 1st. Yes, Community, the Dan Harmon show, one of my favorite comedies of all time, is finally coming to Netflix. So everyone should go watch it because there's a push for a Community movie to finally finish up Community. Please, it's 6 seasons. It's great. It's just a beautiful episode by episode parody of something. But April 1st, and yes, that is how concerned we are. It hits April 1st, and that's 2.5 weeks away. But it's probably still going to be a time for being alone in 2.5 weeks. And finally, friend of the show, Hassan, recommends Kingdom on Netflix, which is like a feudal era Korean Walking Dead. Because Hassan and more than one other person have told me that it's one of the best zombie shows they've seen.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Kingdom. I've really enjoyed the episodes of Community that I've watched, just haven't, sat down and taken that plunge. Since many of you know that free time is at a premium for me. Let's move on to things to read. I think sitting down and reading things in long form is a bit of a lost art. So we're going to do our best to mention and recommend things that you might enjoy reading this quarantine season. I'll go first this time, Andy, and I think you would second this. If you are an anime fan and you claim to like anime, but something is stopping you from watching or reading the best anime, now is the time to do it, Andy. If you have said, "Oh man, I'll get to One Piece when I have the time," well, ladies and gentlemen, and others, you have the time. What better way to fill up all of your free time at home than with 970 plus chapters of the best manga ever. Andy, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, this is the time to do it. I'm looking at my giant stack of One Piece books and thinking to myself, you know what? This might be a time to do a reread. We're nearing the climax of like a 10-year-long story arc. It is time to catch up. It is time to join in because it's going to get epic in a few weeks.
People have been long calculating the math and computating the math in regards to when One Piece will finish based on pacing and comments by the creator, and many people have predicted that it will finish sometime around chapter 1200 to 1250. And we are currently at 970. So we are not that far removed. Andy, you've heard this before. I think One Piece is one of the greatest triumphs in storytelling ever. And I think people will look back on it in the same way that we look back on someone like Jack Kirby, who is, who many people say is just the best. And if you look at old Jack Kirby art, it really is. It's really incredible what he does, and where he was compared to his contemporaries. And you look at One Piece and you look at something like Naruto or Bleach, right? And One Piece hasn't had the Western success that those two things have had, but it certainly is a better crafted and more popular manga.
Right. Now, Ariel, if somebody did want to start the journey through One Piece, where would you recommend that they do this? Because, 90 plus volumes of comic books is kind of a rough, hard sell to a lot of people because you'd have to buy them individually, right?
Good point, Andy. I think the easiest way, and undoubtedly the easiest way, and the way that gives money to the creator, I don't know how much, we don't know, is the Shonen Jump app on any iPhone, and I'm guessing Android phone. You basically pay, what is it, Andy? $2?
$2 a month.
$2 a month for the entire back catalog of not only One Piece, but of course any Shonen Jump manga. That includes, of course, Naruto, Bleach, One Punch Man, any of these classic anime,
Up and Comer, My Hero Academia.
Right. That thing that's arrived, right? It's so big now. So all of the entire back catalog is available on that Shonen Jump app.
Right. $2 a month. Plus, I think there's a 1 month trial. So, hey, there's nothing to lose. Go ahead and try it. You can burn through One Piece real fast.
All right, Andy, what other recommend do you have for reading?
Okay, recommendations for reading include Dune. That's right, Frank Herbert's Dune, because we got to prepare for this movie that's coming out in December, as long as it doesn't get delayed, because this is delaying a lot of things. But Dune is a thick tome that I've always been meaning to read, never got around to reading, and I'm going to start soon.
Yeah, that's a big ask to read something like Dune, but now's as good a time as ever. A book that I'm going to recommend, I think somebody will snatch up the rights to create some other form of it shortly, would be Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. It's currently on hiatus, sitting at 52 issues, I think it is. So now is the time to catch up. It has the drama and the stakes of something like Game of Thrones, and I mean early Game of Thrones or even book Game of Thrones, with the wonder and scale and scope of like Star Wars. And I don't mean like the new Star Wars, which is strangely microcentric, but there's a moment in was it in Empire, right, Andy, where the Millennium Falcon escapes and it lands at an asteroid, and they realize that like it's not an asteroid, right? It's a gigantic worm sitting, or they didn't land in the asteroid; they landed in the mouth of this gigantic worm. Where you're just like, you can expect the unexpected in Saga, and there's just awesome resistance and empire and characters and bounty hunters and magic and tech, and it's probably rated the best indie comic that is currently running, even though technically it's on hiatus. And there's so much wide scale appeal to Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples' Saga.
Right. And Saga is also not afraid to just jump 10 years in the future, which is wonderful.
Or just kill people.
Oh, yeah. Indiscriminately kill main characters.
Yeah, they are completely unafraid. So it's awesome. It's great. It hooks readers. So give Saga a try.
Right. If you are looking to read something that's not quite a sci-fi binge, I've been enjoying Johann Cabal the Necromancer by Jonathan L. Howard. This is a book about a man who becomes a necromancer and makes a deal with Satan for 100 souls for something that is undetermined early on, but he sold the soul to Satan. He's trying to get it back. And the way he does this is by starting a traveling carnival that lures people in and tries to get their souls. This is a very dry British kind of humor. It's really funny. If you are a fan of Lovecraft, but don't really like the horror aspect, this is really for you.
Or the racism.
Johann Cabal, that's spelled Johannes Cabal. He's gone on to do a few other books and adventures. One in which he is a detective on an airship, in a country where necromancy and any kind of magic is illegal. So he has to hide that while also trying to figure out who the murderer is, so he can go on about his nefarious plans. So if you like reading stories about a villainous rogue who does have something resembling a heart of gold, but who's also incredibly cynical and funny and dry and witty and full of British humor, please give Johann Cabal the Necromancer a shot.
All right. My last piece of reading media out there is, first of all, go buy an ebook or rent one from your library. Second, if you are an avid fiction reader and you read nothing but fiction, try finding a non-fiction book that may pique your interest. I am currently reading 2 non-fiction books. One is called The Making of Asian America, which is the history of how, Asian peoples were coerced here or were forced here from their countries to America, and how America treated them in terms of the government and the peoples. The other book I'm starting today is called Range by David Epstein, not Jeff Epstein, that basically combats against the notion of the 10,000 hours theory, right? Where if you put 10,000 hours into something, you are considered a master. It's basically a book that says, to get truly great at something, you must be more of a generalist, because it teaches you how to approach and it teaches you how to learn in different ways, which can largely improve your performance at the thing you're trying to get good at. So find a nonfiction book that piques your interest. If you're a nonfiction reader, talk to a friend, find something that may pique your interest in terms of fiction. Something like Andy's book that he mentioned with the Necromancer. Give something simple a try, like Harry Potter, right? Something easy to read. So try to, the grass is always greener, or the grass is sometimes greener. So check out a book that you might not usually check out. Anything else, Andy?
No. I think that covers just a couple of different things that people can try reading. If you have any suggestions, please tweet at us. Let us know, because I'd love to have more reading material.
Yeah, and the last thing that we want to mention really quickly is a couple of video games that we might want to recommend, or not even video games, just games and things to do that are not watching or reading. Andy, what do you got?
Okay, so first things up, I want to just plug the Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass is a service for PC or Xbox users to basically have access to a library of games. It's basically Netflix, but for games. If you want to just try a bunch of different stuff, just various different games to play, Microsoft has this great service, $10 a month, and you can get, some trials and whatnot. But essentially, if you want to just try a few different games to find something you love, this is where it's at. I can list off a ton of different weird narrative games that I can recommend. What Remains of Edith Finch, where you play, basically you're playing just a bunch of vignettes about a family that may or may not be cursed. It's a really cool little game full of short stories and ironic twists. There's something like Gone Home, which is a game where it's more of a walking simulator, really, but you just play someone who's returning home and just trying to figure out what happened. There's just lots of really weird indie games, and I would not have expected it from this service because, it's a Microsoft-based service. They, of course, have, Halo and all the other Microsoft games, but they also have a lot of hidden indie gems. So give it a shot.
All right. My homework this week is I'm playing a couple of games. So I just want to mention them because I don't really have new games that I've been playing. I picked up Tom Clancy's The Division 2 with a new expansion. I have Halo the Master Chief Collection sitting in my Steam account right now. I believe it currently has, Andy, it has Reach and it has Halo 1.
Right, Combat Evolved.
Halo 1 Combat Evolved. Yeah, Halo Combat Evolved, excuse me. So the story modes are both there, and I will revisit them, and I'm sure, I'm unsure as to when the, the other two games will pop up, but, I'll definitely be checking them out.
Oh, Ariel, it's going to be like 5 more games, dude.
Oh, okay. But yeah, check those out. I still have Monster Hunter installed on my PC. There's plenty of things to do, plenty of games to check out. I would be remiss if Amanda was listening to this and she did not hear me recommend Stardew Valley. That's a recommendation from her.
Is that from the Switch that she stole from you?
No, that's her Switch, Andy. That's her Switch. She bought it. But yeah, Stardew Valley is a great indie game that this guy made, and it's so fun. You're basically just you're manning a farm, and that's all it is. Just you're farming,
learning something that might be useful in the upcoming apocalypse.
Sure. So check those games out. Andy, what else you got? Is there any non-video games you want to recommend?
Man, I mean, play some board games. Go online. There's this board game called Pandemic. I highly recommend it. It is about dealing with a pandemic, a worldwide issue, but it is co-op versus the game. And this is a trend that I really like in board games. I really am not a competitive person. So having board games where you can actually play against the board, so to speak, it's really cool and it's really fun. There's a bunch of other games like this, but Pandemic is the one, for some reason, that's on my mind.
Yeah, for some reason, yeah. Another thing you can do that's a non-video game, perhaps, is to make a puzzle, or do a puzzle, or in my case, get a Gundam model and create that. There are wood puzzles out there. There are 3D puzzles. There are Lego sets you can buy. If you have them, collecting dust down in your basement, pull them out, get a table, and stimulate your brain by making a puzzle.
Oh, yes, I actually do have another game to recommend, Ariel, and Amanda might really enjoy this. It is called Murder by Numbers, and what it is it's the puzzle game Picross, which is kind of like a Sudoku or a crossword puzzle, but with numbers. It is that mixed with the investigation of Ace Attorney.
Okay, that sounds cool.
It is $15. It is on the Switch online. So Murder by Numbers. Give that a shot.
All right. Andy, is there anything else we can recommend that the listeners do? Besides, of course, listen to your favorite podcasts.
Right.
While they are social distancing.
Not only listening to your favorite podcast, but reviewing your favorite podcasts.
Right. All right. That's all we got. Short episode today. And I'm sure that many people who listen to this usually do so in something like their commute. So while you're doing your dishes or cleaning your bathroom or doing the laundry and you're listening to this, go do one of the things that we recommended, or even I hope you're inspired by something that we've said here. But please do not go out. Do not go hang out with people. Do not go to group gatherings of 10 or more. Do not go visit your elderly loved ones or people with poor immune systems.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. Don't buy all the hand sanitizer and toilet paper. It's ridiculous, right? We just want to make sure that we can flatten the curve and stretch out when and how many people get sick.
Right. And one thing to just kind of step on my soapbox, if this works, it is going to look like everyone overreacted. You know, if all this social distancing and all that works, then we will never know how bad it could have gotten. And it is going to look like everyone overreacted. So that's it's a weird catch-22 dealing with stuff like this. But basically, you know, if you're a security expert and you were doing cybersecurity, you don't know how many data breaches you were able to stop.
Right. Yep. All right. That's all we have. No homework today. Stay safe out there. Wash your hands. Don't go crazy.
Don't go see Bloodshot, because I did.
Don't go see Bloodshot. All right, Andy. Let's get out of here. Where can people find you online?
You can find me online on Twitter and Letterboxd. Twitter and Letterboxd at Hebrews Pale Ale.
Right, you can find me on Twitter at DreadPirateRoddy. You can find us at Geek101 Podcast on Twitter and Facebook and Patreon. Email us geek101pod@gmail.com. That's all we have for today. Class dismissed.